Hello and a very warm welcome to the brand new edition of To The Point. I'm Kriti Mishra. And on today's show, I have a very special guest. Information and broadcasting, environment, forest and climate change, and also heavy industries and public enterprises minister, Mr. Prakash Javadekar. So welcome to Sabha Television and thank you so much for joining us. Yes. So you had a couple of ministries, but today we are going to concentrate on the I&B ministry. First and foremost, let's talk about the new OTT rules for the social media and otherwise. Now, there are divergent views on it. I'd just like to understand what was the need, what was the rationale behind it?
The rationale is very simple. You have to provide a level playing field in one sector on every sector. So, what is the condition today for the newspapers? For newspapers have to follow ethics code by Press Council of India and they are subjected to the regulations of Press Council of India law. In this category, the digital news portals, which has become a big phenomenon now, and naturally so, and we appreciate it, the issue is there is no rule for them. Because of digital medium, they don't come under Press Council Act and there is no code. So, to provide level playing field, we have said, so there were complaints from newspaper industry also that why these are the two standards. So, to have one standard, we have decided to have ethics code of Press Council of India applicable to digital news portals also, and at the same time, though they will not be subjected to Press Council of India as such, they will create their own grievance redressal mechanism as well as they will create their self-regulatory mechanism. This is what we have changed. In OTT,
yes,
the film industry used to say they have censor, but they don't have. So, we said that it's a private viewing and therefore, they should not be subjected to the full course of censor, but they have to classify, self-classification of age-related content. So, 7 plus, 13 plus, 16 plus, 18 plus. So, these are various contents and these contents have to be classified by the OTT platforms themselves. What we have said is that there were no rules for OTT platforms. So, now for TV, they are broadcasting news, views and entertainment. For entertainment channels, they have to follow a program code. Downlinking and uplinking regulation, they have to follow this. You also have to follow that. So, there was no restriction of or any kind of rules for these OTT platforms. So, we have provided the same rules applicable in the same category. So, now they will have to follow program code. They will have to create their own grievance redressal mechanism. They will have to create their own self-regulatory mechanism. This is what we have brought it.
So, you've reiterated that these guidelines will provide for self-regulation. But from several quarters, there are concerns that this will eventually lead to government's interference.
No.
How would you refute that?
See, self-regulation bodies are not being nominated or imposed by government. What we have said is that any 40 players in one category, digital news portals or anybody 40 and above, they can come together, form an association, and like NBSC in TV, 70 channels are there in NBSC. So, they have appointed one Supreme Court retired justice. There is a panel of 6 members and anybody can give complaint. There is a hearing for that and after that they ask channels to apologize, to withdraw the content, to show and run the ticker and they can intervene even in emergency cases. So, this is exactly what self-regulating bodies of OTT platforms have to do. Government is nowhere in the picture.
So, government is nowhere in the picture, you've said that. But there are naysayers as well who've been saying that this will lead to censorship and stifle creative freedom of the media. How would you dispel that challenge?
No, I think self-classification has to be done by OTT platforms. Film censorship has not to be done by the filmmaker. It is done by the censor board under a separate act. There is no separate act and they are not going to appear before the censor board. They will not send their films to censor. They will only self-classify the content in age-related categories.
So there has been this concern on fake news, misuse of social media from several quarters. The government has said that this is a soft touch regulation. I'd just like to understand what does that entail?
See, one thing we must remember that this social media, it is more than 1 billion people or 1 billion telephones which carry the social medias platforms, various platforms. People see them. And the spread is so fast that if somebody gives a fake news that the farmer who was protesting and was on tanker, on one tractor, has been killed by police bullet, this goes viral immediately within few minutes. But this is reckless. Not only police, the doctors and everybody, and the footage very clearly shows that it was an accidental death. But still, if somebody makes out a fake news out of nothing, then there has to be some restrictions which we have put in form of even by IT ministry. They have asked companies to identify the original messenger, the original creator of the trouble. And that is what, because then he can be, not all in the chain will have to answer. Only the one person who is creator of the fake news will be identified.
So you also held a meeting with the representatives of the OTT platforms and social media companies. What happened? What were their concerns?
See, we have, before these rules, I have done 2 meetings with OTT platforms in detail. And we asked them the same thing, that you do on your own self-regulatory mechanism, so government need not declare anything. And we welcome that. But somehow it was not done in 8 months, and therefore government declared the rules under IT Act, for which government has power. And at the same time, there were growing complaints on various OTT programs, on various OTT platforms. So there was social demand, and unrest also was created in certain cases, and therefore we stepped in.
Also the fact, sir, that from several quarters we also heard complaints that there was no dialogue, there was no consultation. How would you refute that?
See, that is absolutely not true, because with OTT platforms, there are only 40 OTT platforms known. So all were consulted 5 times. Twice I did the meetings, and 3 times our officers took the meeting in Bombay, Calcutta and New Delhi, and they created the complete dialogue, and we had given them even what is the program code, what is the law present, everything we have given. So they should have created their own strategy. As far as digital media portal, I can understand that we could not consult because we don't know how many digital media portals are. How can I call somebody whom I don't know? There has to be some address, some kind of information with the government. There is no information. And in RNI, the newspapers have to register and register their title also. So there are 1 lakh newspapers registered. So I know who are the owners, what are the address, what are the telephone numbers. We can contact anybody. But here there is no registration. Nobody has given information. So what we have asked is not even registration. It's just giving the information in a format about your own publication, so that in any case situation you can contact us, we can contact you. Otherwise, you have to create a grievance redressal mechanism where any complaint on your news items, if it comes, then that will have to be addressed and answered in 15 days. So what is wrong in it? This is the minimum accountability for any platform in a democratic setup.
All right, sir. So we've been talking about the industry perspective and, of course, the owners. As a social media user, what would these guidelines mean for us?
I think these guidelines for all people is, this is the government which provides level playing field for all, it's justice for all, and therefore this is what people wanted. This is what people were demanding. Actually, now the latest Supreme Court decision or the directions are more important, because they are saying that why not the OTT platforms films should not be shown and go through the process of censor board, because many OTT platforms, because they have to self-classify the age content, and many times they become porn. So if that is the case, this is what Supreme Court has observed, and Supreme Court has a place in democracy, and if they say something, if they direct us, that will be a binding thing. But they have suggested this very important directions, and so definitely we'll study the decision or the directions of the Supreme Court.
So do you think that we need a law to regulate it, now that the Supreme Court has also said it?
I think there has to be self-regulation. As per my own thinking is, it is you must have your own Lakshman Rekha, not drawn by somebody else. But that is what you can think which is right. Every mind is a correct balance, has a correct balance of right and wrong. So what is wrong they know, so they have to just see what should not be shown, what should be shown, and we don't want to interfere in that.
Sir, you mentioned Lakshman Rekha. That's a very important term that you used. But what if it is not adhered to?
No, it's a self-drawn. As I told you, it is not drawn by somebody else, but it is the self, like self-declaration. Now government has put trust in 1 billion people, 140 crore people, and has allowed self-declaration, self-attestation. So self-attestation is nothing but you are guaranteeing that the documents which you are producing is the correct copy of the original one. So if that attestation power has gone to people, which was earlier vested with certain government officials, now it is with everybody. So this is the trust atmosphere which we want to create in the society.
So you also talked about the grievance redressal mechanism. How will it work?
I think grievance redressal mechanism is anybody having some complaint about the program shown by OTT platform or news given by digital platforms. Anybody can complain to the address given, then it will have to be redressed and answered within next 15 days. So, and self-regulation is a body created by the media itself, which will hear the petitioner. If he doesn't satisfy by the answer of the operator, then he is allowed to go to the self-regulating body, and there is judge or eminent person who, and the panel of 6 will listen to the person complainant and then decide whether there is some truth in his complaint or not.
So one of the biggest concerns I remember also in the Rajya Sabha, Chairman of Rajya Sabha had constituted an ad hoc committee for preventing the misuse of social media, child pornography, and also women's issues. How will these new guidelines ensure safety of women, dignity of women?
I think this is the basic concept of all these rules. See, public order and security are primary concerns of the government. Relations with the friendly countries is also one important aspect. So these are some aspects on which people are expected, the media is expected to behave properly. But as you said rightly, women's safety is security. Avoid child abuse, avoid abuse, and avoid many other things. So this has to be codified by the media themselves, self-regulate themselves, and then there will be no reason why government will have to intervene. Government is a sovereign government. It has a sovereign powers. So the mechanism of interdepartmental committee exists now also. We have not brought anything new. What exists in certain fields, in certain sectors, we are implementing it for all remaining sector, the players also.
There was a certain section that said that it will violate the privacy policy or the end-to-end encryption policy of the messaging platforms.
No, Ravi Shankar Prasad has made it very clear that it is not, after all, privacy policy and the end-to-end encryption is not to encourage crime, is not to encourage fake news, is not to encourage something against the national interest. And therefore, every government has that power on all sectors, and the same is here, and therefore there is a mechanism. The same mechanism of grievance redressal system, the self-regulating mechanism, if certain things don't happen, then only it comes to interdepartmental committee, which can use exigency powers.
Lastly, Mr. Javadekar, according to the rules, they also have to, these companies will have to have an office in India, resident officials. What would it mean for India?
Yeah, for big companies like Facebook, WhatsApp and others, because there are 600 million, 200 million, 100 million users of some instrument, the company earns a lot of money from India, and we have no grudge against that. The issue is they will have to keep an office and people here to understand the Indian context and reply immediately.
Sir, you've allayed most of the concerns. You joined us. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you. Very nice.